welcome to the Vegan Stew, our weekly show that's on every Wednesday except the first Wednesday of the month at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, where we talk about current events, topics, anything that really kind of impacts the vegan community, and then some. And Facebook is having trouble. So, okay, sorry, we'll not worry about that. So, we're very excited that you're here, and we have a very important topic that we have been wanting to talk about for weeks, but other topics became more important. And this week, it's going to be about women's choice. And we're going to make a correlation to the females in animal agriculture because it seems to be that's the way the world's heading. So it'll be an interesting topic for all of us to discuss and for you to join in. So you can put your in the comments, you can add a question or a comment, and we'll definitely try to address it while we're doing the show. There's news, and we will be what we start the show, and maybe some other stuff. So let's see. Thank you to Cotton Branch Farm Sanctuary, who is the sponsor for this month because we're in June. You can check them out because they're in Columbia, South Carolina, and it's cottonbranch.org, and they're absolutely amazing. If you haven't been, please check them out. And of course, we always promote donating to the sanctuaries, and because what they're doing is incredible. You can also enter our Wishbone contest by going to virtualvegfestlive.com, clicking the contest tab, and you can win prize packs from TerraSeed, Hodo Foods, VegKey, Follow Your Heart, Revolution Gelato, Rebel Cheese, Cinnaholic, and Fabulous. We thank them for sponsoring everything that we do and for donating the prizes that you get a chance to win. Every day in June, we pick the winners at the beginning of the next month. So I'm going to bring in the Stew Crew. And of course, one other thing, subscribe to us on YouTube. That would be fantastic. And hit the notification bell to know when we go live. Here we go. Hey, Kimberly from Did You Bring the Hummus?
Hello.
Marla Rose from Vegan Street.
Hi.
We have Naus from Gotham the Raw. Sangeeta is back from Tilted Planet. And Kelly is from Climate Healers and the Vegan Apler. Plug for Kelly. She goes live and does cooking demos. You definitely want to follow the Vegan Apler because it's some really cool stuff, and just just do that. So I don't really have a question this week, but because our topic is about women's choice, I guess I was kind of thinking about 10 minutes ago to ask all of you, have you ever been in a situation where I'll go work in a workplace, because in regular life, probably everybody, in a work situation where you've been demeaned, right? So, hi, Stew Crew. Hi, Diane. Good to see you again. So I see the shaking heads. So I'm going to go, Kelly. You shook your head first. Share about that.
Sure. You're talking about just being a woman or being a vegan or being both?
I'm gonna go with woman because that's the topic tonight. But yeah, the vegan part, that's true too. So whatever you want.
Yeah. I mean, I've had the typical, inappropriate comments made at me. And then obviously just, dismissive of veganism. And my abilities in my position. As soon as they found out I was vegan, it was just like, no, you're a woman, no, you're a vegan woman, right? So yeah, just dismissive of my abilities. So I just brushed it off, which is probably not the right thing to do. I've spoken up a few times, not about being a woman in the workplace though, which is, I don't know why I felt I could speak more about me being discriminated against as a vegan rather than me being discriminated against as a woman.
That's very interesting. We should explore that tonight. It's very interesting. So Kimberly?
Yeah, for sure. Just kind of being in a corporate environment, and certainly when you're around mostly men in that corporate environment, is very common to be talked over or to not even get a chance to share your thoughts. And I was, at the same grade and level as these men. We're doing very similar roles, and yeah, it was just nobody needed to hear what Kimberly had to say, because it certainly couldn't be as important as whatever the men in the room were talking about.
Grew up like that. Marla?
Well, I'm glad that Kelly asked to distinguish it, like, is it as being a woman, is it being vegan? Because I think the demeaning nature of so much of the daily life of being a woman is just so naturalized that I don't even notice it. You know, I mean, it's gotten better for sure. Some of the behaviors and some of the Ruby. She's my little chihuahua. But I was going to say, when I worked at an animal shelter and in humane education years ago, when I was a new vegan, I think a lot of times people, even John, can you just take her out? Sorry. A lot of times people just, and I was way more, believe it or not, sorry. I was way more assertive about being vegan then. I think there was a natural defensiveness about people working in the animal world who are not vegan, even though it was in the late 90s and early on. So I think there was like demeaning stuff around that, you know, just defensiveness and weirdness around it. So, and that was life, you know.
Okay, Sangeeta?
So not as a vegan, because pretty much I've been working from home since I became a vegan in 2005. So I haven't had to face this work environment as a vegan. So not demeaned, but just people being desensitive about making sure that wherever we are going to eat has enough vegan choices, or just while ordering food. I recently, when we started going back to work after pandemic, there was a big meeting at work, and I was invited to that, and all they had for me was a salad. So it's just people not willing to take time to think about those of us who do not eat like everybody else. Right? So even if they didn't mean anything wrong, their lack of sensitivity felt like to me that I wasn't considered at all.
Do you think it would have been different if you were a man?
I doubt it.
Okay.
But I have a lot. And as far as being a woman and being demeaned, I'm like, where do I even start? Right? It's like starts at birth or before that even.
That's okay. We're going to explore that even more tonight too, because that's a lot.
Right.
So Naus is back on their laptop. Naus, do you have anything to add to this?
Yeah. So discrimination, I think, because I, first embarked on being vegan when I was 16. I'm so sorry. Thanks, Wednesday Adams. I never really faced any discrimination at work. I faced more like, oh, I could never go vegan, and then if I get something or bring it to work, everybody wants to dabble their hands in it. Like, a more annoyance. I had more people that were inquisitive, and they were willing to learn. In regards to anything aside from veganism itself, discrimination for sure. I won't name the store, but it was in a very high, very ritzy mall, and I was one of few minorities within the store and within the company for there. And you have to look at it as, regardless of what color the person is, what race the person is. You're there to serve everybody, and we were stylists. So a lot of the African American clientele came to find me. After they would come back, you could keep your stylist, and you could ask specifically for them. It made the manager and the assistant manager upset. They were friends, and for no apparent reason, after going above and beyond, being exhausted, still, doing anything, taking shifts, making sure that when we have our busiest times to go, I was let go for no reason.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I found out from one of the former coworkers why. So that I experienced that in regards to racial discrimination. In regards to veganism, not so much, just curiosity.
What about being a woman?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I am my mother's child, and she is a fire starter. So I've never really had a discrimination in that end because they know better. But when I was identifying as she, her, okay, so yes. I will say not necessarily discrimination, but I will say like sexual fetish, like inappropriate comments by male customers. All of us got it when we were working at Hot Topic. We hated working Halloween because guys would just come in solely to oogle, even though we were just in regular clothing. I remember one shift I was wearing skinny jeans and a hoodie, like nothing revealing, anything like that. And we got to pull something out of the back of the store just to dress up. So I just pulled like the cat ears and then, the bunny ears and then the tail. That's it. And just put it in the back of my jeans. And some guy decided to come behind me while I was at the rock wall and rub up against my bottom and pat my bottom and just look at me and then turn around like it was nothing. They do that a lot. They would come and see the outfits, and they would ask. They would boldly say, "Hey, you put that on," to any one of us. Oh yeah, some of these guys. And luckily, if we had male coworkers, one of them especially, who was hilarious because we were getting just the guys were coming at us, so he walked up to one of them and said, "I'll put it on for you," and I tell you, they fled. And he chased them down. He chased them down within the mall. But I mean, Hot Topic, it was great because your coworkers wouldn't stand there and watch something happen to you. They immediately would act. And that right there was that was the only thing that I think that I experienced in regards to gender and people deciding that they think they can touch when they can't touch.
Yeah, that's I have the same strong personality, and part of the problems I've had, there's a reason, which shouldn't shock people who know me, why I don't work a 9-to-5 job and work in corporate world like Kimberly does and Sangeeta does, because I don't know how to not say something. And injustice is injustice. And I've been known to be in a company meeting and speaking back to the CEO and then no longer working there the next day. Because it's, everybody feels a certain thing when you're working, but nobody wants to say anything. And I was just bold enough when I was younger to say something because it's not right. That's just in general, but I've worked in construction. So I've worked with men and, they say something about your breasts. When they hug you, they pull you closer. So they can, when you have breasts, they pull you, like Sangeeta, shake your head. They pull you in to feel your breasts push against their bodies, which, is funny, but it's not. Right? Because you can be close to somebody who's male and they can do that. And it's like I said, I know they do it. And some of them I don't mind because I love them and they're my friends. But you know what? You probably shouldn't be doing that. Because it's just not right. And everyone has shared something that we need to I don't know what we need to do. If you're raising boys, you need to do better, because somewhere along the lines, somebody's not explaining to boys that behaviors are not okay. And we can't imagine that they're only learning them in society and that it's not being learned at home. So
Well, I have.
go ahead.
Oh,
We
I'm so
can't
sorry.
see, we can't see you. So that's part of like,
I'm so sorry. I'm having like some weird issues with what's going on. We're trying to get our little ones to not join the party. But I am raising 2 boys, and they know fully from my sister, from my mom, and from myself, and even from my brother, that, respect is at the top. And also, we will let them know firmly, you do not treat a woman like she is beneath you. You do not come cross with a woman. We will find out through the grapevine if that is the case. You were not raised to be disrespectful. I don't want to hear that you've been disrespectful. And if they decide that they want to, okay, oh yeah, we'll take Nigeria. Go back home for about a month. You will not in your life again. You will not. Aunties and the community, family, it takes a village. They will make sure that never again. Never again.
well,
But
I wish that more people were like that with raising their kids.
Yeah.
But this is definitely something that we're clearly going to segue back into when we start our main topic. And I feel like we've touched on things that are really important for us to continue to touch on when we get into what our main topic is. And of course, Susan said at work, but even more so at auto repair places. You better understand how a car works, otherwise you might be in trouble. And they are really shocked when you do understand. Then they realize they can't take advantage, which is also very fun to watch put somebody in their place when they try to take advantage, because that's something that I would be really good at. So Mara, let's start the news, or Kelly, let's do the news. So we can talk about that for a little brief moment, then get right back into the subject.
Sure. So the news I'm going to share today is pretty short. I have to be honest, I did not watch this show. My whole family did. I had no interest in it. But it's, it was a massive show at the beginning of COVID, and that is Tiger King. So Doc Antle has been arrested and is currently incarcerated on money laundering charges. And in Virginia, he's also facing 2 felony counts of wildlife trafficking and conspiracy to wildlife trafficking charges, as well as 13 misdemeanor counts of conspiracy to violate the Endangered Species Act and animal cruelty charges tied to the trafficking of lion cubs. And the charges are, he's supposed to go to trial next month. So a little bit of good news for the animal rights community, that this despicable person is hopefully going to be held accountable.
Yeah.
Just more and more great news on Pride. Just fantastic June. This makes me happy. I hope he does end up in jail. He deserves it.
Yeah, I know. It'd be great if it were for animal cruelty, but whatever it takes,
Yeah. All right. So I don't think we really have to belabor the point of somebody who hasn't treated animals well, some of which are female. And, let's go into our topic. And it's women's choice. And we're going to we're going to actually relate it to animal agriculture, the women, the females that are in animal ag. And the correlation here, Marla, it's just gonna like blow my mind with the way things are going with Roe versus Wade possibly being, removed, and you think about us as all born women and our rights to have a baby, not have a baby, the choice to do that, the choice to have an abortion, not have an abortion, our choices there. And then you think about the cows being forcibly impregnated on a farm so that people could have, dairy. it's like us as human being females are it's almost as bad as, the factory farm animals. Once all our rights are gone, go for it.
Well, was that someone? Oh, okay. So just to kind of set the groundwork here, as most of you know, and most of the listeners, I don't know what that is, or in most of the listening audience, there was a leaked draft of a of a majority opinion that is likely going to be released sometime this summer. It is the majority of this conservative Supreme Court justices that it is preparing to overturn Roe v. Wade, which is, I think, one of the, if not the first time we've actually removed rights from individuals in this country. It is set up to basically leave the regulation of the termination of pregnancies to the states. We saw how that went after the Civil War, leaving things to the states with Jim Crow laws, which extended basic slavery for 100 years. Basically it meant that while slavery was outlawed, indentured slavery conditions continued. So basically, because we live in this patchwork nation, if it looks like Roe v. Wade is overturned, there are trigger laws in over half of the states in this country that, there are trigger laws in, I don't know, maybe about 6 or 7 states, and many other states, 26 states, which will either make it illegal to terminate a pregnancy or make it extremely, extremely, extremely difficult before the 6 weeks date, which most people don't realize they're pregnant during. In my state, in Illinois, if you look at a map, every other state around us is going to immediately either ban or deeply, deeply, deeply restrict. So some of us, like in myself included, have signed up with agencies locally to offer safe harbor if somebody wants to terminate a pregnancy from other states. And people are now figuring out, that in many states it's already difficult, and it's going to be impossible, if not more difficult. And this is an undue burden, especially on Black, brown people who can bear children, and the poor. I find it interesting that a lot of people assume that if you're vegan, you're going to be against abortion. And I would just like to hear your takes on that. Like, do you feel that there's a disconnect in that? I will give my own opinion after I hear other people's, but I'd like to just see some conversation about that. Does it seem to be hypocritical? Does it seem to be a disconnect between being a like someone who's working very hard to create a more compassionate, more loving, more kind world, and supporting freedom of choice? So any thoughts on that? Raise your okay, Helene.
So
okay, thank you.
it's an interesting thing to think about in the compassion for animals and being an ethical vegan and wanting animals to live. But at the same time, if our dog or cat was sick or hurt or needed to have an abortion because it would take their life, we would do that. I don't believe there'd be a vegan that, unless they're pro-life, but even then, I think they would still abort a dog or cat's kittens or puppies. So it doesn't extend. For some reason, humans don't extend the thought processes or processes further than just wanting to control other people, which isn't okay. I'm pro-choice, been pro-choice my whole life. I've had an abortion. I see absolutely nothing wrong with it for a person to do that. I believe that, there are cases where it's important to do it.
Mhm.
And I mean, I was a teenager. So I mean that no. like the kid would be really fucked up. So I mean, there's just no way, that I was not even wanted as the last child in my family. I was not a planned pregnancy for my mom.
Right.
So can you imagine her 17-year-old daughter having a baby with a parent that didn't want to have the kid that was going to have the baby, and then she died 3 years later. So
my God.
by the time I was 21, I would have had no parents
Right.
and not really a supportive family.
Mhm.
So those are the scenarios that you have for people that you have. I mean, I thought well enough. I was really sick though, so it probably wouldn't have lasted anyway. But being vegan, I feel like has nothing to do with choice.
Yeah. Mhm.
We want the animals to live. We don't want cows to be forcibly impregnated, nor pigs, nor sheep, nor any animal. And that should extend to all living beings, all sentient beings.
Kimberly, then Kelly, then Sangeeta. Mhm.
So like Colleen, I don't see anything wrong with getting an abortion if that's the choice. And that's always been my my view on this. I've never had an abortion myself, but I know, like I knew from the time that I started engaging in sex that if I got pregnant, that was very likely going to be the response to that. So I don't, and I think that, women should be able to decide and change their minds, like even no matter what the timing is, if they're beyond whatever the week is that they say now, and they're like, no, you know what, I changed my mind. This isn't good for me. Is there are already so many unwanted children in the world. Like, I'm really just so moved by what Helene said, that like, why would we make more unwanted children in the world when we have the ability to not bring them into the world? And my concern really is for those who are already here.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
I want us to be safe and to know that we can be cared for in a way that we need to be cared for, and make choices for ourselves and decisions for ourselves and our families. And this, the same thing with the animals. I don't want them, they're already here, right? Because of the way that humans have decided to use them and operate in the world. So, but that doesn't mean we need to make more of them, and it doesn't mean that we need to torture them in order to have more animals in the world. So,
Right.
yeah.
Kelly, you had your implement raised.
Yeah, I think Helene and Kimberly touched upon a lot what I was going to say. Like being vegan to me is about compassion for all living sentient beings. And I don't know how you can display compassion to a woman who is not able to make a choice for herself, and forcing her to do something that she doesn't want to do. Not only is that an uncompassionate choice for the woman, but for like the future child, who will either feel resented or given up possibly, or whatever. So, I don't think that that abortion and veganism are like one and the same. I'm pro-choice as well. I know someone very close to me that's had an abortion. I completely support it, and yeah.
I totally agree.
So,
It's Sangeeta.
Sangeeta, then Nels. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So I do see that as a vegan, personally, I would not choose abortion. I know that. But at the same time, if we lived in a perfect society, there would be more contraceptives for men. Women would not be pretty much the sole bearer of this responsibility of contraceptions. We know what happens in that area. And then in a perfect society, women would be more supported when they do become pregnant. And we know that does not happen either. And being vegan is also recognizing the autonomy of everybody on their own life, including animals. And the reason I am vegan because the animals have zero choice. They could defend themselves if they had a choice, but we've taken all of their choices away from them. And that sort of is same thing is happening to women also. And they come into this position or situation where they are left with no good choice at all, and they have to choose between two really terrible choices. And at that time, taking away their autonomy is not the right thing to do.
Now, what are your thoughts?
Okay. So I have a lot to say on this. I am pro-choice. I might have brought this up. I probably didn't. But I will share a story with you. I'm so sorry. Give me 1 second. Can you guys see me?
Yes.
Yay.
So I when I found out I was pregnant with our first child, with my first son, with Amoha, my stomach was hurting. I thought maybe, okay, I'll just, do a ginger chew or ginger tea or, ginger beer, some crackers. And I had told my then spouse that if it doesn't get better, if I'm still experiencing something, I want to go to the ER. So he was like, got it. So we ended up going to the ER. They ended up doing a ultrasound, and I'm waiting to hear what's going on. They gave me something to stop the pain from my stomach, and the nurse pops in and runs in, and she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy for you. We're like, what? And she's like, oh, you're pregnant. And I was like, now I was ecstatic, okay, to find out that I was expecting. What became alarming and went from a happy moment and still cause for celebration because we were trying was when another doctor came in and said that there is a possibility that the baby could be ectopic. Where do you want to deliver? After explaining what ectopic pregnancy is and the risk to both me and the baby, I would have an abortion. Because I think that the big problem is that, and that needs to be realized, is they are a clump of cells. They are a clump of cells. And there are so many people that have, so many women, so many trans women that have health issues where their body can't take a pregnancy, where maybe the environment that they are, the best care is not there. I encountered a situation where I am from sexual assault, where if I had ended up pregnant by this person, I would not keep the baby. That is the thing that goes unforgotten is you're thinking about the child. And just like it was touched upon before, there are so many children that are in foster care, so many children that are up for adoption. They matter too. You guys are saying we want to make sure that, you can't, before you even find out that you're pregnant. I was 4 weeks. I didn't know.
Right.
So at that point, if I had not, you're going to go ahead and I become the quote unquote murderer. I'm not going to, the mental anguish that I would go through carrying someone who had forcefully impregnated me. I mean, it's going to happen where one of two things are going to happen. If you're not going to give the abortion, You're not going to let a woman decide to do with her bodily and not with her body. They're going to take it into their own hands to find another way to end the pregnancy. And I'm not saying at all that if someone's like, oh my gosh, I had a wild weekend, I got knocked up, abortion. No, that you knew exactly what you were doing. So I don't condone that, but I can't tell you what to do. But you're going to have such a high number of deaths. Women are going to end up committing suicide. And then my big thing that I said too is, you know, you are trying so hard to rule over our body and the children that are not here yet. What about the kids that just died in Texas?
Right.
Then they say nothing. It's like you can't be for one or the other. You can't be pro-choice for an unborn, and then these kids, but you know, it doesn't work that way. It's like priorities. Really think. And even in regards to, I love how this really does also play into when you're dealing with animals and factory farming, especially female cows. And I am all for anybody who wants to go ahead and approach a lifestyle of getting healthy. Okay. There's the big thing where now people are becoming clear with what plant-based is and veganism is. And I remember getting into it with a friend because they were trying to school me on what veganism is and then what plant-based is. I said, let me make something quite clear. You can't say that you're plant-based and you'll go meat-free and you so love the animals, or you're wanting to make sure that they're not killed when you're still wearing leather. You're still buying this Gucci bag. You're still going ahead and coat. You're still wearing fur. You're not. No, you are not helping. You're still, in a way, contributing to the suffering of that animal. You are where they were slaughtered solely for you to decide you were going to try and imitate what you saw in New York Fashion Week. For what? For what? Every single aspect that, just like was stated, every single living thing deserves to be here, depending on the situation. And in regards to abortion, for me, I am pro-choice. A woman I'm not going to tell you what to do with your body. I won't want you to tell me what to do with mine. But other circumstances need to be recognized, that there's a lot of mental health issues. There's a lot of minorities have it badly because healthcare is not accessible. Healthcare now in just the United States alone is horrible. It's horrible. So you're saying that for a girl who's raped, she's got to carry this child. She's going to be pregnant. It's either by incest, by a friend, by a guy, just some man who decided they want to go ahead and do whatever they want to do because I am a man. Mentally, she's not there because she's no longer a teen. And then she's forced to not be able to decide. There's so much that goes along with this. But I mean, the dog agrees. Doggo agrees. It's like, yeah, I completely get what's going on. There's so many other aspects and facets to this that it's not just a roundabout yes or no. I'm pro-choice. I'm against and I'm for. And the same thing definitely goes when it goes to with animals.
No, got you. No, yes.
That I am very much with you, all of you. My own attitudes have always been that, I've always been a very sensitive person who, suffering is something that touches me deeply and affects me deeply. And I have no qualm whatsoever with terminating an unwanted pregnancy. So, I mean, no moral qualm, no, feeling of, I have no conflict with it. And I know that that's just a personal take. But I also know that as opposed to the party that insists on babies being born and then allows them to be gunned down in classrooms, I do feel we need to fight for the ones who are here. I, am fighting for the viable, life forms, whether it's a mother pig, a mother cow, a mother chicken, a human. These are the ones who I think deserve our safeguarding. And if it comes down to cells versus a a human or an actual living being, I will always err on the side of the entity who is here, the one who is here, Sangita.
Yeah, I want to narrate one personal story. When I was pregnant, because I was older at the time, I was offered the choice. I think it's at 20 weeks or something that I was offered a choice to test for Down syndrome of the baby. And when the doctor mentioned it, I didn't think much about it. So I'm like, okay, let's get tested. And so I gave the sample. And I gave the sample, I had such those until I got the results. I had such remorse about testing, and I'm like, it is my baby. If it has a Down syndrome, am I gonna terminate this pregnancy? And that at that time I knew that I probably would not be able to terminate the pregnancy even if the test comes out as positive. And that's just my experience. I am not going to say that every woman should do what I did. Luckily for me, the test was negative and I have a beautiful child. And of course, Down syndrome children are beautiful too. But I would just want, I just remembered this and wanted to narrate that story.
Right. I do want to just quickly just jump in there and say, not to diminish what you said at all, Sangeeta, but to say you are in a stable relationship with a loving partner who, that you guys are stable, you guys love each other, you guys support each other. So many of these cases, that's it's not that easy to make that decision. I do want to say, as we're moving more and more in this path toward what Margaret Atwood kind of wrote as a cautionary tale, and what Black and brown people lived for hundreds of years in this country, the idea of women, those with uteruses, lacking sovereignty over their reproduction is very much in alignment with what we do to the animals that people consume, whether they're, I see you holding cows, pigs, chickens. They are basically food production machines, baby production machines. And I think a lot of times people, like I didn't realize when I was a vegetarian, I did not realize the extent of the suffering, the extent of the cruelty. And in fact, I didn't even stop and think that, of course, milk is produced by a pregnant being, and the cycles of abuse, the cycles of cruelty, the fact that I think a lot of times vegetarians don't realize that the end of the road for milk producers and egg producers, seemingly products that don't require violence, is not only are they violated every day of their lives, their short lives, but the end of the line is slaughter. So don't be deluded about that. Okay, so Helene.
So if you're pro-life and you're not vegan, then you're a hypocrite. Because you cannot say that a human woman should have the right to abort their baby and then eat cows and eat milk where the animals are forcibly impregnated so that we can have these things to consume when we don't even need them to consume them. And that, that might be harsh, and you might be sitting there watching this going, well, I'm on the fence with being vegan. And, I like my burger when I like my hot dog, when I go to like the game, I like my milkshake from, where we get a milkshake from. No, but you're going to fight. You're going to fight to the death to make sure as a woman or your children as females or future women, females on this planet have the right to have autonomy over their bodies. And you don't get it, because they're sentient beings as well. And that's what we're all fighting for in addition to. That's why we're doing a show on our rights, because we want to keep them. And we've been fighting this whole time to make sure those animals have rights and are not in that horrible industry that creates your food. Sangeeta.
Well, I also have a trouble with this terminology we use, like pro-life, pro-choice. I don't think people who call themselves pro-life are pro-life. They're pro-birth, right? They're pro whatever you call it. They're
Pro-fetus.
pro-fetus. Yeah, that's not pro-life. I mean, we are not anti-life by any means. We want to support life. We want to support life of both women and her family, right? We want to support the family.
I agree with you, and I think that language is super important. I will never say the words pro-life except with copious quotation marks. I use terms like anti-choice, or if I'm feeling a little extra I call them what they are, which is forced birthers. Pro-choice it's lands well with me, and that's what it is. I also have an issue, and I don't want to bring this up. It's kind of a side issue. Why do so many in the media refer to mass killers as shooters? Shooters. I hear it again and again and again and again. These murderers referred to as shooters. We have to be very precise with our language, because this is how people get confused.
Terrorists. They're terrorists. That's what is happening. They are creating terror.
Now, did you have something to say?
You dead on. Thank you. Terrorist. They are terrorists. Anybody who thinks it's okay to carry an AR-15, and even in light of the news that was to the reason why parents had to go ahead and identify their children via DNA, and you still are like, but my choice and guns and hooray. I'm gonna be blunt. I'm a parent. You need to burn. You need to find the nearest cliff and jump, because and then again, these people who are like, against abortion, just like you said, pro-life, the wording is difficult, and I agree. I am against forced birthers. You're not going to force me to have a child and not think about the circumstance and repercussions.
No,
terminology on a whole needs to be changed.
You're saying that about the DNA thing. It's something I brought up to Stephen. I said, you realize that they asked the parents to give DNA so they can determine which child is theirs, or if their child's in there. There's and if you haven't put 1 and 1 + 1 together to make 2 as to why, it's because they couldn't recognize the children, because they were shot up so badly that their parts were all over the room.
Some were actually decapitated by the force of this.
Right. Milton Mills put it on his page. He said, show the bodies. Let the parents have to make that choice, obviously. Show the bodies.
Look at what Emmett Till's mother did, after her son was slaughtered. She insisted on an open casket. And thank goodness she did, because that helped to open eyes to the regular violence that Black people were living with in the United States. Emmett Till's mother. I just want to also say, to Naus's point, these people who are screaming about choice, I have never, ever heard any of them speak about reproductive rights. Or the same people who are screaming about choice for vaccines, never, ever, ever, ever talking about reproductive rights. Now, so you had something to say?
Yeah, somebody just commented, Susan did, one of the viewers, that a young girl, she always wore green Converse because she wanted to be an environmentalist. They were only able to identify her body from the shoes. There was nothing left. Matthew McConaughey, I saw the clip, it's all over TikTok, where he went to the White House and lost it and went off. And the sad thing about it is I also saw the video where someone approached Ted Cruz about children being killed in a restaurant. He stood
Yeah,
there smugly in this person's face and just said, you know what you're talking about, laughing goodbye, while they're trying to forcibly remove him. I don't understand.
No, you do understand. That's the thing, is you do understand. What you don't understand is how somebody could lie like that.
right.
How somebody could actually, to save their job, to get voted back
Right.
into their position,
Right.
outright lie and feign ignorance of something that they completely are aware of.
Mhm.
There's no way that any politician goes to bed at night and doesn't think, wow, that's really awful what happened to those kids. I know exactly what happened to those kids, but tomorrow I'm going to wake up and I'm going to vote against any law that would make it so that would never have happened.
Well, all they can hope for is that we just kind of are hit by this and that and this. Oh, the gas prices. Oh, this. Oh, inflation. And we eventually just kind of quit caring. But the point I'm feeling is I feel like somehow something with this. I think am I frozen?
Yeah, we can hear you though.
Okay. Something with this has turned the tide. And I feel like because maybe there were so many in a row, and because this was such a flagrant, like if you're going to live in the country with this many guns, there should be better protection, right? And they're standing outside the door waiting for the key from the janitor. My God. But that shows you the mentality of life. And I do have to say this about Matthew McConaughey. I'm glad he's sticking his neck out, but I do want to say this is not a both sides thing. This is not, Democrats also being, pardon my English, assholes on this topic. We need to get real reform happening. And that is squarely in the Republican part of this. So,
And to pull it back, Marla, to pull it back to women.
Yeah.
I don't know how every woman on this planet isn't outraged. Because those are their babies. Those were those women's babies. They were their children. And not that the men aren't upset they lost their children, but you know what? All of you on this panel that have given birth to a human life, there's nothing like that on this planet. That bond, that connection you have, yeah, the man has it. They did help you make it, but they didn't carry that baby for 9 months. They didn't birth that baby. They don't have that. Those women, that woman who ran into that school and went and got her kids and her family member out because police weren't doing it. Every woman should be doing that right now so that their kid isn't in this, in their school, in their town, anywhere in this country or in this world. Anywhere. I don't understand. I don't understand how anybody could vote against this. I don't understand how any woman could watch what happened and be like, it won't happen to me.
Right.
It wasn't in my town.
Right.
It's not my kid.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't have kids, and it was Steve and I like crying.
Right.
And how
Right.
so as women, so we bring it right back to, we're in a country, this one, thankfully Canada said no guns. They made the law. You can't buy a gun. They did what we can't do. Our neighbor to the north said, nope, no guns. Go ahead, Kelly.
Yeah, I mean, I know that Canada has stricter gun laws, but I do want to point out that after what happened in Texas, there has been, I think, 3 fake, this got either talks, like they have been like thwarted, like the teenagers have been caught talking about doing the same thing. So this has brought up, like, I mean, Canada's not innocent, right? Like those people exist here, and it sadly emboldened to think that they'd somehow be able to pull it off. And we're just lucky that we have, teenagers who like spoke up and said, like, I heard this. Like this, like you said, this is causing change. It's causing change in so many ways, and that is like we know there's so many teenagers that like heard what this kid said and didn't even think that he would do anything. And now that we see it's going to happen, so now they're going to speak up when they hear any type of this type of talk because of that potential. Whether they actually planned on executing on it or not doesn't matter. But right after that, we had someone actually in my area in Toronto who was walking around with what they perceived was a gun within within the area, 3 schools, shot him dead. This happened within a week, less than a week of after what happened in Texas, right? And like a BB gun, like it was not anything deadly. And it's been like nothing. Like after that happened, I'm like, how do we not know more about this? Like someone was killed. Nothing on the news.
Sangeeta, then now, but I just want to quickly say one of the differences with the United States and places like Canada, Australia, the UK, England, they actually learn from tragedies and things change. So, I mean, it's not, I think it's important to not idealize places, but at least reform happens after tragedies. Sangeeta, then Nels.
Yeah, I'm going to bring the discussion back to animals. And one of the revelation for me many years after I became vegan and after I had a child was to know that cow's gestation period is also 9 months. And it was mind-boggling for me that how did I not know when I was consuming all that dairy that they also go through the same period of gestation, which means they bond, they have the same hormonal secretions that create this feeling of love and nourishment in us. And it is the same in all mammals because the hormones are exactly the same. And granted that because they are four-legged, their babies start to become more independent sooner, but that means that it is more important for those mothers to be able to nurture their short childhood of their younglings or their youngsters.
Right.
And so I just wanted to say that it was my ignorance that I just thought, oh, cow, just wasn't thinking about cows, how the milk comes. That cow has to go through 9 months of gestation, then a childbirth, and then of course she's gonna lactate like anybody else, any other family.
I think all of us who were vegetarian for a while before we went vegan, same like disconnect. No.
Yeah, there is that disconnect. I was vegetarian for maybe 4 months. Went to a concert. They were themselves vegan against animal cruelty. Watched the video that was playing. Immediately, I was like, I can't do this anymore. Because, yeah, at that point in time, I didn't have, kids. I was 16. Hi, honey. But,
there goes Nels's point. Okay.
Yeah, there we go. I had pets, and I was like, they give life. They bring in, what do you think a kitten is? What do you think a puppy is? Do you think that it's just poof, that just appears out of nowhere? A being must give life and carry this to bring it into the world. How can you watch something go through torture, an animal go through torture, and think it's just an animal, as if they don't feel? Maybe like the disconnect, because it immediately, there was no wearing of any animal. My parents thought it was hilarious because, I'm Nigerian, so, they were like, oh, it's a phase. My dad thought it would be just eat the backyard, and well, I'm 41 now, so with 2 vegan children, and it's imperative that they know, that everything is connected, and everything that is here, you don't look at this and say, I justify killing you because I'm going to eat you. There is a high disconnect, and the connection became quite quick. I think being on the spectrum and being neurodivergent, processing is a big thing for me. So watching something and just vividly looking at it, it wasn't I'll think about it. Immediately through my head was, why is this happening? How could this, wait a minute, no, what? Like that type of thing, and watching and taking it in. It's getting better. I will say that I'm hopeful. Gen Z is not playing.
Yes.
And it makes and Generation Alpha, which is my little ones, they're also super conscious. But look at who raises them. Look at what they see. Look at what they're exposed to. You have no filter. I'm going to show you. I'm not going to hide anything from you, because you need to know that the world is not pretty. People are cruel. These acts are cruel. And you need to be a voice for those who cannot speak. Period.
Exactly. You bring up a good point now in bringing in the animals. And, why do we TNR? Why do we neuter? Why do we pay? Why do we do those things? Why don't we have 50,000 puppies in our houses and kittens in our houses? Because we know that it's what's the humane thing to do. It's healthier for the cat and the dog to do that, so they don't have issues with having babies, because they don't have birth control or the sense to stop. We do that for them. And we also don't want to take care of their animals. That's why we have an overpopulation of cats and dogs and other animals in this country, on this planet. Still, how we don't go from A to B and from B to C baffles me. And they do. They actually do. They're just hypocrites. Sangeeta and Kelly, everybody had their
I think Kimberly had something to say.
Yeah, go for it.
I just wanted to go back to what Sangeeta was saying and add on to. So, she talked about the emotion, the bond that is created, the same gestation period, and all of that. And then what happens after that baby calf is born is that they are taken from their mother almost immediately.
Right.
So just imagine that. You've spent all this time developing this bond in whatever language, cow language, human language, whatever it is, you're connecting. And then someone comes in and tears them away from you.
Right.
And so every time you're eating cow cheese, you're drinking cow milk, you've been a part of that. And once I understood that, I couldn't have, cow cheese and cow milk anymore.
I wanted to just quickly point out that the small amount of time that calves are allowed to be with their mother is, a matter of hours, is to consume the colostrum, because that is a purely economic decision, because it gives them better immunity. So it's almost crueler to give them that shorter, hour or 2 or 12 hours, whatever. Sangeeta.
No, I'm done.
Oh, okay.
Kelly had her thing up, though, right?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, you know, I think someone made a comment like, you know, why don't people like think about this? Like, yeah, you know, an animal has to be impregnated and have these babies in order for us to eat them, and it's because the industry has done such a good job at making the eating of animal products to be a man thing. It's very
Right.
manly, or if it's woman, it's sexualized, so that we not think about what is really going on, right?
Yes. It's also very opaque, right? It's not easy. I mean, that's part of why so many people have gone vegan since the age of the internet, is because now we can research this. Now we can. It used to be people had to go undercover inside of, and they still do, of course, but the opacity is for a reason, so that because they know that most of us would not approve of it. Now,
I get to unmute. The kiddos are not around. I don't have to be here too much. When there's so many more places now where, if you're just like you stated, Marla, your resources for wanting to know more about veganism, knowing where to start, knowing the difference between plant-based and vegan. One is a dietary health decision, one is a lifestyle. This is not something where you're just like here or there fleeting. And when I became vegan at 16, it was Whole Foods. Like, that was the only place. Whole
yeah.
paycheck took my whole paycheck. And I was like, good Lord. But that was the only place. Then Trader Joe's came along, so it made more variety. Then you have just the well-known convenience store, conventional stores carrying. Like, there's no place now where you can't find any alternatives. And it's fantastic to see that there are more options. Of course, the biggest thing I know, and we probably heard it all the time, is when people want to embrace going vegan, but they're like, cheese. I'm like, well, I'll write you a list, because there are fantastic cheeses, you know, that are fantastic. If you can't take soy, there's ones that are no soy. They're coconut oil. I mean, there are fantastic choices. Not everything tastes like cornbread, hungry, cardboard anymore. And
as opposed to
think,
the old days where we had to just tell people, just get over it, because you're not going to have.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Eat some tofu and flavor it.
Yes. And now it's good to see that it's also becoming cost effective. Seeing a lot of brands coming out, like one's called Aplenty. They have amazing vegan food, and with their groceries, and I mean, it's cost effective. Like, it's not, you know, I'm paying $7 for something like this.
Yeah.
There are companies.
Right.
I'm not paying $7 for this. I will go and watch a YouTube video and learn how to make some dough and make the sauce myself, okay? And know that I'm saving enough money where if it costs me $7 for one vegan pizza, I can make 2 to 3. You know, so you also, I think capitalism plays a big part, because I did some digging, kind of venturing off, but no, because capitalism also plays with factory farming. A lot of brands that do take part in terms of carrying meat, you know, in regards to the contribution to the slaughter of animals, animal cruelty, and factory farming, they'll hop on and they're like, oh, veganism, plant-based is the new thing. And then they'll rebrand under a sister company. And then you're like, oh, perfect. You know, it's vegan and things like that. I had to do some digging, and there are several brands that's like, who is the head company? Same thing goes for cosmetics. Kat Von D. I'm just going to stick to but that line is owned by Estee Lauder. She sold it to Estee Lauder. Estee Lauder, they test on animals. If it wasn't bad enough for that, you know the other way I'm going. I don't care how much rebranding that you do when it comes to that line. I don't care. No. So it's just, people have to really it may seem tedious and tasking, but it's worth it. Know where you are giving your money to. Not a lot of people knew that Burt's Bees was not, oh, the old man on the thing. Oh, that's where, no. 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 That
Burt's Bees is
person.
actually like 30 minutes from my house. It's in Durham. We walk by it whenever we
Really?
go and do DPAC. We walk right by their headquarters, which is, I'm just, I liked Burt's Bees until I stopped, using something with beeswax in it.
Right.
That was my lip balm. Now, Hurrah Balm is one of my favorites. But Steven said something, I think he might be a little behind watching the show, but he said release the 911 calls and put the pictures of massacred children on every politician's desk and demand that they acknowledge to the nation what they are seeing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And not lie about
That's
it.
what my dad
On top of that. So, Marley, you want to close it out?
Yeah, I just want to, we're 10 minutes over. So this is obviously a very important topic with many different side bars that we can easily go down. I like Nels have a lot of hope with our younger generations. I see it with my son. I see it with his friends. But these dinosaurs need to get out of the way as soon as possible because we don't have time to fiddle around with this anymore. So anyway, I do, I appreciate everyone who's been here tonight. We'll be back again next week, same time. And Helene's going to take us out. But I just, this is a topic we could come back to again and again and again because they're all so interconnected. So thank you, everyone, for being here.
Sure. All right. So thank you, Kimberly. Thank you, Marla. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Nels. Thank you, Sangeeta, who had to, scoot out. So thank you for watching the show and for joining us on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. And the first Wednesday of the month is Coach Kayla. And on Mondays, you can watch Kimberly on Fireside Chat with Kimberly at 7 p.m. And we have some yoga that you can watch tomorrow. You can do yoga tomorrow at 12:30 with Vic. And you can enter our contest at virtualadventurouslive.com and win some really cool prize packs, which will be fun for you if you win. And of course, Susan, thank you again for watching and supporting us and everything. And tough topic. Obviously, we went all over the place, but I think we'll keep coming back to what happened in Texas because how do we not? And you know what? We'll keep bringing it up because it shouldn't be forgotten. And it'll correlate to probably almost everything we talk about. And I hope in your lives that it correlates to everything you're talking about. And it's not pleasant, but you know how you can't forget the Holocaust? Shouldn't forget these mass shootings. And because if we forget, they count on it. And then nothing changes. And then it could be your family. It's already been mine. My family was already in Parkland. So I don't need it to get any closer than that. And you don't want it to happen to your family. Okay. Well, have a great night. Next week, Pride. It's Pride Month. We're going to change the logo to rainbow. And we already have Virtual Veg Fest Live. It's the other way. Virtual Veg Fest Live is already rainbow because we did it last year. So we're going to celebrate Pride next week. And now this is going to lead a show for the first time as a host. And we might have some guests too. So happy Pride. Happy June. Have a good, we'll try. It's really hard. It's hard times for many reasons. So everyone just keep doing your best and we'll see you next week. Thanks. Bye.